I want to take a moment today to address that recent study that came out from Boston Children's Hospital. The one that states that parts of the country, states that have higher numbers of gun laws on their books, have fewer incidences of gun deaths. Now, I want to address this topic from a purely scientific standpoint, but it's a little hard because you really can't find the empirical data that they used or the processes that they used. You can pretty much just find their conclusions and things they just wanted to say. But let's just take their stuff on face value and look at it from a really scientific perspective. First off, I guess we're supposed to ignore that actually in the body of the study they actually say this study is not scientific, it is not valid, and it does not show any proven link. I guess we're supposed to ignore that because all the titles of the study, all the titles of the articles on the study say, science proves links between gun laws and deaths. Science proves this. Study proves this. And yet then the study goes on to say, but we just want to say the study doesn't prove anything, it isn't scientific. I guess we're supposed to ignore all that. I guess that's for the benefit of the people who just want to believe it. But, it's hard for me to ignore that part of the study. And one reason the study isn't scientific is they compared dissimilar states. For the study to be scientific, you'd have to compare states that are similar in most aspects other than the gun laws. They don't do that. You can't take states like northeastern states like Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey that have very high income rates and compare them to states like Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama that have very low income rates. You can't take those northeastern states that have higher education levels and higher public education standards and compare them to states that have lower education standards and lower education systems. You can't take the states in the northeast that have higher average age populations and compare them to the states that have lower age average populations and say that they're similar in every way except for their gun laws. You can't make those comparisons if other things aren't the same. That's why it's not scientific, it's just bunk. Another problem with the study is they don't really state what kind of gun laws they are. Are they pro-gun laws, anti-gun laws? What are they? It just says if they have 1 to this many gun laws on the books or if they have 10 to this many gun laws on the books. They list my states, Oregon and Washington, as being relatively safe states and having lots of gun laws, but we're very pro-gun states. We're very friendly gun states. We have lots of laws about guns, but they're pro-gun laws. So that whole part of the study right there is just completely tears the scientific backbone out of the study itself because they don't distinguish what kind of laws are on the books. I mean, right off the bat, you start to see discrepancies in the study if you look at their charts. Like they try to portray, Illinois is safe. We don't have a lot of gun deaths and we have lots of gun laws. Well, that doesn't really jive with the murder rates because all the states that you're listing that have these high number of gun laws and low number of gun deaths are still high murder states. Like Illinois is in the top 10 of murders. And most of the states you list, like California as being super state, are in the top 50 percentile of states for murder rates. So that part right there just makes you go, do you really care if people are getting murdered or do you just care if they're getting murdered by a gun? And let's not forget that 60% of all gun deaths are suicide related. So, you can't stop suicide with gun laws. If someone decides they want to end their own life, that's their own problem and that's their own business and they're going to do it. Now, I'm not advocating it, but I'm saying you cannot stop it by passing laws that affect all people just to stop this small little minute portion of the population that might misuse a gun to end their own lives. And I don't know about you, but I'm less worried about people misusing a gun to end their own lives than I am someone coming into the mall and misusing a gun to end my life or the life of my children. So trying to pass gun laws just to force people to choose another means of suicide, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. And when you take suicide out of the equation, all the other numbers become a lot less impactful. Then let's look at that chart they have that says, tries to make it look like if you have a lot of gun laws, you have less gun deaths. Well, you look at that right away and you start to see problems because you look at a state like Michigan and they're listed as one of the states that have the highest number of gun laws, but they're also listed as one of the states that has one of the highest numbers of gun deaths. Then you look at Alabama. Some of them, the highest number of gun laws, one of the highest rates of gun deaths. Then you look at North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, that have the minimal amount of gun laws and are among the lower rates of gun deaths. So right off the bat, the numbers don't add up. If you look at it objectively, you're like, there's something wrong with your hypothesis here because the data doesn't support your hypothesis. There's not a constant. So basically the study, what it's doing is it's just taking unrelated data like suicides. It's also taking they have to have died from it. It has to be a fatality. It can't just be a shooting or an attack or an assault or anything like that. That doesn't even factor in to begin with. So that alone destroys the study too when it comes to violent crime. So in the end, this is just a bunch of nonsense. It's just a bunch of nothing. Are we supposed to? They go on to admit that we have no money to do these studies, so they're not really that involved. And then we're supposed to trust them more than the federal government that does the FBI studies that are very involved, who say the exact opposite of what they're saying. That states that have more gun laws aren't safer. That anti-gun laws don't affect violent crime rates. So in the end, it's just a bunch of bullcrap. It's just a bunch of misleading information. It's a bunch of misrepresented facts. Like I say, just the saying that they have to die from it to count, well, that discounts anybody who is assaulted or attacked and survives. So a state that had a better medical system could get a lower rating on gun deaths even if more people were shot. And like I already said, you can't take these New England states, these Northeast states like Massachusetts and other states where people make more money, people are older, people have better educations, and try to compare that to other states that are completely dissimilar and say, oh, let's see, it's the same. The only difference is the gun laws, because it's not the only difference. There's other factors there that we already know have more of an impact on violence. How much money you earn, how much education you have, what type of life you live. That has way more impact, but yet that keeps getting ignored in this study. So in the end, you have a study that tries to portray these states as being the safer states in the Union because they have gun laws, when in reality, they're in the top 50 percentile and even in the top 10% of states that are unsafe in the Union. States where you're more likely to be killed. So maybe that would seem to me like, well, in states that have more gun laws, if you're more likely to be killed, that means you're more likely to be a victim. And also, that's another thing the thing doesn't separate out. It doesn't separate out just deaths. Like if someone breaks in my home, threatens my family and children, and I shoot them and kill them. It doesn't take that into account. That counts that just as if someone was shot and killed, period. Doesn't take any circumstances into account. So once again, another reason the study is ridiculous. So at the end, I could go on all day about what's wrong with the study. I mean, all you have to do is read the study for 5 minutes, look at the graphs, and you see inconsistencies, you see misrepresented data, you see outdated concepts. I mean, they're using concepts from back in the 70s, information that was originated back in the 70s to base a lot of their assumptions upon. I mean, it's just ridiculous, ridiculous stuff. So instead of going on and on and on about what's wrong with the study, we'll just talk about what's right with it, which is absolutely nothing. There's nothing right with the study. All the study is a partisan attempt to support a political agenda right now. Someone got some money to produce a paper with very little work that doesn't say anything but can be represented as saying something. And that's all it is. It's just a partisan piece of garbage, and that's how it should be treated. And if anyone wants to come to me with it, using this study as their argument, I'll be more than happy to tear you apart.